What is up? We are back. The Celtics are back. First the floor is back. I'm Jake Eisenberg. I'm joined by Wayne Spooney. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing good, dude. If you were on the playback last night, you got treated. I'm not sure that's the right phrase.
I definitely got treated.
To a drunk me last night. So I had no choice. But at 37 years old, the hangovers get worse. So sometimes you got to nip a little hair of the dog. So I have had a couple of beers again just to make myself feel normal. And there's no better way to celebrate like what ended up being a fairly comfortable Celtics win, even though it did not feel like it it never feels like it unless they're up like 40. But just a legit wire-to-wire win against Cleveland on the road yet again. They're undefeated on the road so far. Pretty good. That's pretty good.
They are so good on the road. I don't know what it is, but they are incredible on the road in the playoffs and have been going back to that Udoka year. Some comment from Rivens in the chat. Can you get the replays of the playback? If you do want to watch Celtics games with us, playback.tv/Celtics blog. It was a fun time last night. They've just started doing replays. I'm trying to figure out how to deal with it all. We might start just posting them on like a separate place just because we can do that. I know some people do that. But if you go to our Instagram, First the Floor Instagram, you can see about a 2-minute highlight reel of Spoonie, Jake, and Jackson reacting to yesterday's game, which was fantastic. So while you're here, please like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Takes a quick twitch of the finger to the First to the Floor YouTube channel. We're about to crack the 4K mark. Thank you to all the legends out there that have been supporting us this year. It's been a successful season for the podcast and a successful season for the Boston Celtics. 106-93, as you said, wire-to-wire double-digit win. It does not feel like wire-to-wire double-digit wins when we're in the moment during these playoff games, man. Like, it doesn't, like, we're up 7. We feel like we're down 7. We're up 20. It feels like the game's still tied. And I will say the Celtics actually played with that mentality for once, which was great to see. So we go into halftime 57-48. The games are won and lost in the third. Celtics go up 71-48 coming out of the half. So and Tatum talked about in his press conference, I challenged the group. We have a tendency to relax. We're very aware, Jayson Tatum, that you have a tendency to relax. They kind of actually relaxed after they went up 71-48, but they came out and effectively ended the game 71-48.
Yeah, and I felt like the defensive effort, and not just effort, just like communication, rotations, everything was so incredibly on point in that third quarter. Like, the first half was all about just limiting everyone but Donovan Mitchell. Like, we were way more willing to switch Al Horford onto Donovan Mitchell than we have been in the first 2 games. And like you saw game 2, man, like, he just went at that drop coverage. He put his head down. He went to the rim, attacked the drop coverage. Help came. And it was like kind of a layup and dunk line in game 2. So we basically dared him to beat us with pull-up threes, and he almost kind of did. But even still, like, I think he made 7 pull-up threes or 6 pull-up threes in the first half. And it was still a 9-point lead. And then they really locked in. Like, I just thought we did a really good job switching on a Mitchell. Everybody was no overhelp. Like, I can't remember once where they overhelped in that third quarter, especially. And Tatum helping off the weak side like he's fucking Rob Williams in the third. Dude. He was so good helping at the rim. It was absolutely ridiculous. And he was like getting back. He didn't grab a ton of rebounds in the third, but I felt like every rebound, he was like tapping it to somebody, or he's just mixed up in there. And he did such a good job on the defensive end. And as he goes defensively, I feel like when he's really locked in, everybody else gets locked in too, because if your best player's playing defense like a hellion like he was in that third quarter, especially the first 6 minutes or so, everybody's in tune. Everybody's there. And there was just like no straight line drives. They just completely shut Cleveland's water off, and it was beautiful. Maybe the best like 5-6 minutes they played in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was incredible. Just a quick comment here. Who makes it out of the Pacers-Knicks series? We're going to talk about the Pacers blowout towards the end of the podcast, so hang around for that. Yeah, man, I don't know why we needed to have the Game 2 experience to get the Game 3 experience, but that was what was so disappointing and so confounding about Game 2 from a Tatum perspective. He's your best player. As you said, the team's going to follow him, and that, like, I can live with some inefficient nights. That is what it is. Like, Tatum is not the most efficient, most incredible offensive scorer in the NBA. That's not what makes him incredible. What makes him incredible is that AK-47, but the superstar version. And, like, that's what we got from Tatum last night. Like, when he's playing that help defense, they've got him on Mobley. You're absolutely right, man. They had him in that roving role, and he was unbelievable in that role. You mentioned it, like that role when he's playing on Mobley, that led to the best sequence of the game and the little tip out. I've got a clip of that here. Keep an eye on Tatum. There's a lot going on. The Celtics do a really good job defending this as a whole, but just kind of watch Tatum through this whole thing.
You want to do your job, and right now the Cavaliers need more people to step up. Okoro still can't finish. Brown comes away with a rebound. Numbers for Boston in the corner. Horford. Back iron, no. Tatum keeps it alive. Right back to Tatum. Holiday wide open. You bet.
And that was the game. The game.
That's so good.
It's ridiculous.
Offensive rebound is nuts, man.
Ridiculous. And he was doing that all night. And yeah, the controlled tips. We love to see a couple of controlled. You can't let your tips be uncontrolled. You've got to focus in and can control what you control. The Celtics defense was so much better. The defense is tricky with this team, though, right? Like, because a lot of people were screaming after Game 2, can we just switch it? They're killing the drop coverage. We start switching everything. Donovan Mitchell goes fucking nuclear in the first half on those pull-up threes. First half, Donovan Mitchell, 23 points, 8 for 12, 6 for 8 from 3, but 0 assists. Second half, 10 points, 4 for 10, 1 for 4, 3 assists. Ends up playing 43 and a half minutes. It's just loud, though, when he's cooking you like that. Like, the Celtics end the half up 9, but it feels like that we're tied or we're down because of the way that he's absolutely eviscerating you on that end. And Horford's looking old. To be fair, he snatched House's ankles in a way that he didn't even snatch Horford's, man. Like, Sammy was like doing Twister on the ground there. Like, it was a tough look for Sam, and like tough look for Sam in this series, which we'll touch on a little bit later as well. But defensively, they didn't overreact, and this is what's so hard, I think, as a fan. It's like, we got to send help. We got to send help. Like, we got to mix it up, and we're like kind of freaking out. We spend the whole halftime thinking about what we can do. We didn't change too much coming out of halftime, but then towards the end of the half, end of the fourth quarter, we start hedging more, a couple of traps. You start throwing some different coverages at him, and it's like if you start doing that in the second quarter, these guys are so fucking good. They're going to become comfortable with these coverages, and then by the time you get to the fourth quarter, he's gonna see what's coming, and then start picking you apart in a way that he did in the second game. So I love the way they held on. It's like Jon Snow or Braveheart, you know. It's like hold, and like it's like you want to go, you want to change it up, but it's like we can withstand this. We can withstand this. He's not going to go 12 for 16, probably. Even his most incredible nights, he's never been that. He's not a reality bender, to quote Joe Tiddy. He's an incredible player, but he's not a reality bender. He's not from another planet. He will cool off, and he did cool off. And I loved the way they held the fort.
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell shot 35% on pull-up threes this year. You know what I mean? Like, and we know Mazzulla's like a math guy. He's playing the math. It's like, okay, he went 6 for 8 in the first half. He's probably not going to do that in the second half. And even push come to shove, it's like you're up 9 at halftime. Like, you know, if you play the second half exactly like you did the first half, you're going to win by 18, which is a pretty comfortable win. So,
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Mitchell is really, really tough to defend, though, because he is so dynamic. Like, if you throw a trap at him, you basically have to trap him in the exact perfect spot. You got to get him to the sideline, and you got to trap him, like, just above the break. Because if you trap him too high, He's good enough that he can escape dribble, make a pass, and then it's 4-on-3. Jon Snow of Braveheart. I think Jake said Jon Snow or Braveheart.
To be fair, my or sounds like or. It's not. We don't use the letter R in our language over here, so I can understand the confusion.
So I just think Mitchell's really tough. And then if you hedge it, he's so smart off the bounce, and he really doesn't give up his dribble. Garland doesn't either, which I think is maybe one of the best aspects of Garland's game. Garland was pretty dog shit last night, I think. Yeah, he just doesn't have it. Ben's yelling at us about the podcast layout. There we go. Got it, Ben. We're on it.
Here we go. We're back, baby.
So I think Mitchell's really tough. I think the best thing you could do is just switch Horford onto him some possessions and play drop other possessions and just kind of mix it up a little bit. But I just do not think trapping him is the right way to go, because then you let other guys get involved in the game, and then that's when they can kill you. Like if Mitchell goes for, we saw it in game 6 against Orlando. What do you have? 50, 40 something. And they lost, like one dude is not, Mitchell is not Steph Curry. Like he can look like him sometimes, but he's not Steph Curry. He's not going to shoot you out of an entire playoff series. He's just not that type of guy. You're right. Yeah. Like shout out copyright Joe Titty. He's not that world gravity bender. He's just the step below that. And it's like, is Jaylen Brown going to win you 4 playoff games on pull-up threes? No. Mitchell and Jaylen are kind of pretty similar level types of players. Mitchell is a better offensive player, but worse defensively. So I love that Joe he's just sort of stubborn in like a good way. Like I think he understands that the system that he's put in place works. It's going to work, even if Donovan Mitchell is really hot from 3. I think the problem is if you let Garland get hot. If you let Isaac, I don't know, can Okoro even get high? I guess he kind of did in game 1, but
3 for 8. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's as hot as he gets.
You can't let Evan Mobley get 20 points on layups and dunks and stuff like that. Like that is how you're going to lose to Cleveland. But if Mitchell's taking 30 shots a night, 25, 28, 30 shots, we're good. It's fine.
Yep. Yeah, the defense is absolutely where we are. We're just different to the Minnesota defense, which I think can be like frustrating a little bit at times. It's like that swarming feeling you get where like you feel like you've got an extra player out there is not exactly how the Celtics play defense. They play a little more bend, don't break. And I think in these matchups with the Heat and the Cavs, that is the way they should be playing. They don't need to reinvent the wheel to breakdowns when you play that high, like the higher level of aggression that can lead to leaks in the defense. So where they're third in defensive efficiency on the playoffs, behind the Magic at number 1, Thunder at number 2, Celtics at number 3. The Magic, Minnesota Timberwolves at 4th, below the Celtics all of a sudden. Granted, the Celtics don't have to play the Denver Nuggets, which is probably contributing a little bit to that. But I got these stats here from Ben Missoula Baller on Twitter. Great Twitter follow. The Celtics, first in limiting transition frequency, first in defensive rebounding percentage, first in defensive free throw rate. It's like control what you can control, which is what I've said countless times in this playoffs. It's like the shooting variance stuff's going to pop up. And game 2 against the Heat, that's a shooting variance game. That's fine. Game 2 against the Cavs, sure, they shot 50% from 3, but the rope was already had kind of been let go of when you entered that third quarter, when they went scorched earth and hit 7 threes or whatever. That defense was not there in game 2 of this Cavs series, which, we can try and theorize why that was. But when they play defense like they did last night, you force Mitchell to be a guy that's going to have to drop. Like even if he drops 12 for 16 from 3 and those other guys are shut down, they probably still don't win the game as long as everybody else is held in check. It just is loud. And so Horford gets caught on an island a couple of times. I was talking to Eric Weiss on the playback stream for the Pacers Knicks games earlier this morning, and he was like, they can kind of help Horford out a little bit as well. Like, yes, they're switching Horford on him, but can they soft switch a bunch of stuff? Can they kind of like scram him out at times? Can they help a little bit better? make Donovan Mitchell think a little bit more, like show some help, recover back to a shooter. I think there's some stuff they can do to help Al Horford out a little bit. Because that's kind of the question, I think, a little bit about the defense is what we do with the big rotation. Also, I just want to note, Donovan Mitchell has been added to the injury report for tomorrow, questionable with a left calf strain, because it definitely looked like he wore down in the second half here. I mean, statistically, 10 points in the second half, 4 for 10, 1 for 4 from 3, compared to that first half where he went scorched earth. Obviously, that was part of it. He was already dealing with the knee thing, which has looked completely fine through the first 3 games or 2.25 games. That kind of checks out. I'm not sure what's going on with these calf injuries through the playoffs between Porzingis, Donovan Mitchell. Luke Cornett is also probable with a calf strain. So going back to the defense, going back to Al Horford being like your starting 5, kind of like your anchor, him and Tatum, it's too much to ask of Al, I think. He did play fine though. Like again, it feels loud, but like he gave up those switches. He kind of got beat a couple times, but like it was fine, really.
A lot of those were like pretty semi-contested pull-ups too, though. You know what I mean? Like Al was kind of there. It wasn't like the best contest of all time. It's not like he was totally up in Mitchell's airspace, but he was like there-ish, and Mitchell's good enough that he doesn't really feel a semi-contest. You need to really be up on him. But then the problem is we don't want Al up on him because he's just going to blow right by him. Like, this is not 28-year-old, 29-year-old Al Horford anymore, right? He's literally my age, you know? So
playing 38 minutes in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. It's insane. And it goes back to like Joe's whole defensive philosophy is that just keep everything in front of you. We're not going to generate turnovers, but we're going to rebound the ball, and we're just going to kind of play the mat. Like, you can't stop our offense. So, you know, if you're going to have an incredibly hot shooting night, we will probably lose that game. But over 7 games, that's not going to happen 4 times, and we're going to be just fine. And Al kind of played his role perfectly. Like, we're asking a little bit too much of him. I think to switch on a Mitchell and be successful every single possession, that's just not going to happen. But, you know, some of these Mitchell threes in that first half they were fucking crazy. Like, they were tough, man. They were really difficult shots.
Yeah, dude. He was fucking 7 for 10 on like the highest possible difficulty shot in the league. It's like, okay. And they were still winning. And then he stopped hitting them, and then the Celtics started to win. So like that, I think that's fine. And maybe we'll just talk about it now and we can shuffle the run sheet around a little bit. But
sure.
Because RJ had a question here. If you go to JT at the 5 to save Al, would it make more sense to bring Al off the bench? So Cornette probable with calf tightness. Al 38 minutes. Didn't see any Tillman yesterday. We have Cater on the bench. Tatum at the 5 is something that I think can absolutely work in this matchup. Like, yesterday, Mobley went off and they went to Dean Wade at the 5. And I was like, this is if you're going to go Tatum at the 5, like, this is the time to do it. Even with Mobley at the 5, they've got Tatum guarding Mobley half the time anyway. I do think that they should try it. I'm torn because it's like, well, they're winning these games anyway. So whatever. I guess we're only 2-1. We feel a lot better now that we're a game removed from that Game 2 game. But I think we're pretty confident in the way that we match up with this team. Do you think we see more Tillman? Do we need to kind of reinvent the wheel here? I do think it's 38. I don't think it's sustainable for a Horford for the rest of the series.
You don't need to talk to me about Al Horford playing.
I was going to say, I'm talking to the right guy here.
28 might be too many. Yeah, I like trying Tatum at the 5, but I think the flip side of that is we really have not done it at all this season. I think Udoka was more willing to go to Tatum at the 5 than Joe has been. I wonder if we've seen it. Aussie Phil says play Walshy at the 5. Yeah,
let it fly.
Maybe not. Maybe we might be a little deep in the playoffs for that experiment, but it's going to juice you offensively. Like, there's just no way it won't juice you offensively. I think the problem is that Hauser, to me, is kind of unplayable in this series in a lot of ways. So then are you looking at Pritchard, Derek, Jrue, Jaylen,
Tatum,
Jayson? You're pretty small there, and we do kind of have the advantage on the Cavs being bigger than they are, especially when they go to like Dean Wade at the 5. So is the offensive juice worth maybe losing the rebounding battle? I know it's a delicate balance for sure. I think the move is just play Tillman a little bit more. Like
what's going on with Tillman?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think he was bad in game 2 when he got some minutes either. He might be just kind of out of shape because he had that injury for a while when we traded for him and he didn't really play, and he has not got game minutes, and playoff minutes are so different than regular season minutes, and it's way more different than like playing yourself into shape in practice and things like that. So I wonder if Joe just doesn't really trust him to play like a decent amount of minutes, especially against a team where he's going to have to switch on to Garland and Mitchell, because that's his value, is that he can switch. So, and he also like killed me in game 2 with not putting up layup. Like that dude would not shoot even when he was open around the rim. And we're push come to shove, we're an offensive team for the most part, right? Like we had the best offense of all time per offensive rating this year. And you can't submarine the offense with somebody. I'm not sure that's worth it. Which brings you back to like then play Tatum at the 5 because the offense is going to be awesome. Yeah. So I think it's a difficult balance that Joe's got to make, especially if Cornette's not going to be able to play. I wonder if I think he's just going to probably ride Al for 35 plus for the rest of the series. I think that's what's going to happen.
It's tricky. Yeah. Cause I mean, Al ends up going 0 for 6 yesterday anyway from 3. Tillman in game 2, they went to an Al Tillman lineup, which worked really well. And that was like one of the best stretches of game 2 because there was not a lot to pick from. He played 7 minutes in that first half. He looked cooked by the end of that stretch. And then we only saw 4 more minutes in the second half. So I think that's part of it. But you don't need a ton of minutes. And I do think that like if we put Tillman out there instead of Al, it's going to look defensively pretty much the same. I don't think Tillman's going to be able to defend Donovan Mitchell on a switch any better than Al is. Like Donovan Mitchell's going to be able to shoot over the top of Xavier Tillman in the exact same way that he was over at Horford. But that's fine. If the defense is pretty much the same, then go for it. I do think offensively it's okay to have the one guy out there that can't shoot. Joe is obsessed with it, and like I mean, why not? Obviously, like it's been a game changer. But look, you had Cornette in there, and I know Tillman's not the same level of vertical threat that Tillman is. Tatum had, Dean Wade on the perimeter. He cooks him, gets downhill, hits the lob to Cornette. I think at least in the first half, like I think you start the game with Al at the 5, obviously, because that's going to be when he's at his freshest. Do you do the first sub is Cornette, and then the second one is Tillman, and that's where you try and buy Horford that rest, and then maybe another, and then Cornette buys you a little bit more rest in that second half. Just can you get him into like the 33-minute range? Yeah. I'm not sure if the 3-point shooting is tied directly to the legs because he was 3 for 7 in the game before. Obviously, didn't play as many minutes. Cater we have on the bench. I can't believe I'm the one saying it.
No way, Jake. Come on.
I can't believe I'm the one. No.
What are we gonna do? What's he gonna do?
Who's gonna get
defense?
Who's
What's
gonna
gonna happen? Yeah.
I'd rather go Brissy at the 5, and then I feel more comfortable switching everything there.
Yeah, agreed. Real quick, DJ Daniel, he says in the chat, if Al's not making threes, there's no difference between Al and O'Shea or Tillman. Al gets guarded, and that is the most important thing for us, is Al takes defenders out to the corner when he's standing there, and Tillman and Brissett will not. They'll just plop Evan Mobley on whoever that guy is, whether it's Tillman or it's Brissett, and Evan Mobley's just going to be at the rim every single time we drive. That kind of happened in game 2. I felt like we should have involved Al more in the offensive scheme. Yeah. So, Aussie Phil, sadly, Yabu isn't walking through that door. Yeah, dude, I'm on team fucking give him the 15th roster spot. Yabu's been hooping for Barcelona, bro. But yeah, I think, like I said, man, without KP, and maybe to mix up the run sheet a little bit more, I feel like we miss KP more than I was expecting in this series. Like Al shooting 22% from 3 against the Cavs. And KP's just such a gunner. Like you can kind of help off of Al, and his shot's slower, and he doesn't shoot from like KP is shooting like 28 and 29 30-footers, dude. Like he really stretches the defense in a way that Horford does not. Are you surprised? Are you surprised how much we miss him? Do you think we miss him?
A little bit. I'm a little bit surprised how much we miss him. I also wonder if we're going to change our minds if we just win the next 2 games. It's like, did we actually miss him that much, or did we just? Because we do clearly miss him. And when I was like, the Celtics can make the finals without KP, that's not to say that making the finals will be easy without KP. You're going to end up losing extra game or 2 per series without Porzingis. Yeah, it's just when you talk about it, it's like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. Broadly, we'll be fine. But then, like after game 1 as well, I was like, how did we feel like we missed KP that much? Because Cornet was so good protecting the rim in game 1. It feels like they've kind of figured him out in a way that I wasn't sure they were going to after that game 1. And if he's not going to be as effective defensively, then obviously then you really start to feel the difference between him and KP, because he's not giving you anything close to what you're missing on the other end. So I guess yes and no. I don't know. I'm both yes, but you can just feel it. You can just feel it. It's like, yeah, man, it'd be really nice to have because the whole last 10 minutes we've been talking about the Tillman, Prissy, Tatum at the 5. That's just not a question. It's not something we have to even talk about because we have KP, and we don't have the KP Horford double big lineup. There's so much different. Like the team is so different with or without KP. The team is pretty much the same as the last 2 years, where it's like the only difference is you're replacing Marcus with Jrue, and like you could probably make the argument that up until last night that Marcus is better than Jrue, at least for the playoffs. So, and what's the story of the Celtics in the last 2 years in the playoffs? They tend to extend these series a little longer than they probably should. So it kind of actually makes sense, but I know he's been in Cleveland. Does that mean anything, or is that just the fact that he wants to be with the team?
I think it's probably just he wants to be with the team, but I don't know. If this goes 7, he's playing game 7 without it.
I would say so
for sure. But I think we'll probably monitor if we were down like 3-2 going to game 6. Maybe he plays game 6. I don't think that's going to happen. But he's there. You never know, man. Like it makes me think like, oh, wow. But I don't think he's going to play. Yeah, we got to get into prize picks, don't we?
There we go. So before we get into the prize picks, while with the ads running, like, subscribe, get in there, boys and girls. Ad break. Listen in.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. March is over, but the biggest moments of college basketball tip off in the month of April. Be a part of the action on Prize Picks for both men's and women's college basketball. And get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. You can even make the play-in rounds seem interesting since we all know the Celtics won't be there. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Personally, I'm looking at Derek White more on points because they are criminally low, and we all know Derek White is going to come up big in the postseason. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100.
All right. Jayson Tatum.
We got to talk about Tatum.
Jayson Tatum. So obviously he's been a big story. He's been fucking copping slander left and right from everybody. And this was his best game of the playoffs, obviously. 33, 13, 6. The numbers don't quite do it justice. 11 for 25, ends up 44% from the field. 9 for 9 from the line.
Yeah.
39.
I know you loved that, Jake. I know you loved it.
Yeah, dude. Beautiful. Not just the volume, but he fucking made the free throws. Thank God, dude. Unbelievable. So, yeah, he actually ended up with a 57% true shooting, which is like, we can totally live with a 57% true shooting from Tatum if he's going to give you everything that he's given you on the other end. We kind of already spoke about how incredible he was defensively. Like, when he's doing that, the game is just different. Like, Donovan Mitchell can have a more efficient scoring night, and Tatum's, if he's going to play like that on the other end, then he's going to be better than than Mitchell. All he has to do in this series is play Mitchell even, and the Cavs don't really stand a chance. But the number that I want to talk about is the 39.1% usage, and then also 42 minutes playoff high, 23 minutes in the second half, averaging 38 minutes per game, which is pretty low for some of these guys out here. But so we kind of saw what we're used to in the playoffs is like high usage, high minutes, high motor, AK-47 Tatum.
Can you believe we were like, is this guy hurt after game
I know.
2? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, like, what the fuck happened in game 2 is kind of like the conclusion there. But also, it really kind of weird shooting game from him because he was 2 for 2 from 3 and then missed 6 straight.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre. And the shooting's going to come around. Like, I'm almost kind of happy that we're winning all these games without him shooting well because it's going to come around. He's going to get hot. And it might be like perfect timing for him to get shot. So, get hot rather. I just
don't get shot, dude.
Yeah, please do not get shot. Don't go Paul Pierce on us, dude. So I just tweeted out, Tatum is the 4th most efficient pick and roll ball handler in the playoffs if you include passes per synergy, right? So we need to give and he has way more volume than the top 3, and the 3rd is Peyton Pritchard. So give Pritchard the ball maybe, but
hey.
yeah. So and Jokic is one of them, and Deuce McBride is first in the NBA. Shout out West Virginia University. So like just give him the ball in the pick and roll, and he can really make things happen for the offense. Like he has had so many possessions in this entire playoffs where he gets the defense rotating, he gets downhill, he makes the pass. He does not record a stat on the possession, but we score because Jayson Tatum is as good as he is. That's why I've not been concerned about the bad shooting. I mean, we're winning. We've lost twice, right? And all of our wins have been double-digit wins. So, like, something is obviously working, even if he's not scoring efficiently. And, like, the 11 of 25 does not do his game justice because I thought there are a lot of possessions where there's like 7 on the shot clock and they're just like, give it to Tatum. And he like works himself into a mid-range jumper that is just not going to go down for him. He's just not that guy, man, which is ironic because before he got to Duke, he was like the mid-range guy coming out of high school. Like that was his game. It's just not anymore. I just honestly prefer him to take step back threes. Like
Correct.
How many middies did he take last night? Like 6? Yeah.
He
turned
cannot
4 of those. Yeah. 4 of those into pull-up threes.
He can't get above 38%, really. It's like 40% from the mid-range is like good for him. Just take threes at that point. He's more comfortable doing it, and like I don't mind sprinkling it in there. Like sprinkle a couple of them in there. And he had that sick one on Jrue late. It's fine to go to it.
Behind the backboard.
Yeah. Like, it's fine to get to it a little bit, but it feels like it's over-reliant when, like, he's just better at the pull-up 3. And, yeah, he's more comfortable doing that. I'm fine with it. And also, you set the screen up high. I feel like it gives him more options. I don't just tilt the game, like, 5 to 10% back towards the pull-up 3 and away from the mid-range jumper. I think that's probably the move. But, yeah, Tatum... That's all we want to see. I want us to
the game.
That's just give the ball to Tatum, get out of the way. The way that it's also a mentality thing, man. The way that in game 2 where he's like standing there with like Strus on him and like there's a driving lane that he wasn't dribbling for, and he took them yesterday. I hope this is kind of the wake up call, for him in the playoffs, and also can we just like play him 42 minutes? I don't know. I think it's fine. Like, can we just get out of the series? I'm not especially worried about him wearing down at this point. But maybe that's me just kind of getting ahead of myself and like, it's like, Jake, don't push the foot to the pedal too quickly here.
I almost feel like he's better if he plays more minutes. Like, I don't know why. Some guys are like that. Josh Hart is clearly one of those guys. Like, if he knows he's never coming out of the game, like, he's just more confident. And I feel like Tatum's that type of dude, man. So I'm fine. Tatum is the one guy I'm totally fine playing 40-plus minutes a night. Like, just do it. His endurance is ridiculous, and his effort was from the start of the first quarter till when he came out in the end of the fourth quarter. Thought his effort was crazy high the entire game. So I'm not concerned about it. He just has these games where it's just like not there. I don't get it, but I'm totally fine with him playing 42, 43, 44.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And then it's one of those things like you play him that many minutes and they win. Like
Right.
it's the on-off numbers, even with him shooting like this, are still crazy so far in the playoffs, right? And so if you play him in next game 43, 44 minutes, and in game 5, like you kind of guaranteed that you get out of this series in 5, then like then he can just recover and get back to it. What was I going to say about Tatum? I just had something in my head that's just escaped my brain. That's all right. Go ahead if you've got anything.
No, I was going to say we should probably talk about Jaylen,
Yes.
who has quietly been fucking awesome basically the whole playoffs, bar a few Heat games. But he's been destroying Cleveland. He's shooting over 60% from the floor, over 40% from the three-point line, and over 80% from the line against Cleveland. Like, that seems impossible. And you got it here in our notes that he's at 61.2 true shooting percentage for the playoffs. Like, and he's top 10 in efficiency on isolations, including passes per synergy in the playoffs. Like, he was great. He was fantastic. And I think defensively, he's been very locked in for the most part. Couple overhelps in game 2 that I didn't love, but thought he was just about perfect defensively in game 3 as well. So JB, man, there's nobody on this team that can guard him. Straight up, period. And he ain't scared of Evan. He's the only guy who's not scared of Evan Mobley. He goes right at fucking Evan Mobley, and I love it.
This is a Jaylen series. And you guys actually called it, both of you coming into this series, Ben and Spoonie, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's see how we go. But like, it absolutely is a Jaylen series. So for the playoffs, he's averaging 2.5 turnovers, which sounds a little high, but 3.3 turnovers last playoffs. But in the Cleveland series, 1.3 turnovers.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, yesterday, 13 for 17 is just like ridiculous. But yeah, man, outside of that Miami matchup, and a couple, like, they just like are in his head. I don't even think that they did anything too crazy. They're absolutely in his head. He just fucking loses his mind when he plays the Heat. And you see this, like, this is the version of Jaylen Brown that we got all year long. Like, the way that he gets into the paint now, he gets into the paint 2 feet. He had a beautiful play. Someone found him on a cut under the rim. Pump fake. Evan Mobley goes by. Layup. He gets into the paint 2 feet. Finds someone on a kick out. Like, how many times last playoffs is Jaylen just like driving into the paint, whether it's in transition or in the half court, leaves his feet, he's in trouble, turns around, throws it, turnover. That just doesn't happen anymore.
Yep.
And so like and that's the thing. He gets to 2 feet and he can either pump fake. He's got that pivot game, pivot, and then he still gets a jump shot off that he can still make, or the defense collapses. He had some really nice passes yesterday. But just from an overall perspective in this playoffs, like, you get out of that Miami series, you look ahead to a Knicks or a Pacers matchup. It feels like only the Timberwolves that would be a team that's going to maybe bring that out of him. But I wonder how much of that is like is it a Miami thing? Because Jaylen was really good against the Timberwolves in both of those matchups. But Jaylen looks awesome. And then you think about the intangible stuff. I think everybody saw the clip yesterday of Jaylen mic'd up yesterday, standing next to Tatum. And he's like, stop letting them play with you, JT. You're a big deuce. You're a big deuce. And Tatum's just sitting there like nodding, getting ready to go. And Jaylen clearly has taken the leadership thing seriously. And I really got to pick the Eric Wise's brain in the playback stream earlier today. And you could just tell that Jaylen Brown has like read some books. Like he's tried to Jaylen Brown the leadership thing. Like, he made a comment yesterday like about leadership, about staying together. I'm like making sure everybody's locked in at practice, making sure I'm touching everyone. I'm like, and Eric's like, that's definitely a leadership thing where like the physical touch, the actual physical touch of leadership. He's read that on chapter 3, physical touch, leadership, why it's important. And he's going around touching everyone's butts. And I'm like, yeah, Keep touching butts, man. I'm loving the leadership from Jaylen Brown.
That's what we want. We want Jaylen Brown touching butts.
Always,
and
dude.
Ass to throats. That's the move right there.
Ass to throat. Game 4. Let's go, dude.
He's just been so fucking good, dude. And it's been awesome to see in this series. So I'm really happy for Jaylen because he works his fucking ass off. You know what I mean? He doesn't have sort of the natural feel for the game that some guys do at his level, and he has just worked himself into basically a borderline all NBA player, like through force of will, essentially. Like him and Tatum, we ran a horn set. Tatum got the ball. He hits Jaylen at like the free throw line, and Jaylen, just what you said, 2 feet in the paint, pivot, fall away, buries it right in the first quarter. And there's just not that many dudes that's an efficient shot for. There's like 5 of them in the NBA that's a good shot. But it's a goddamn great shot for Jaylen Brown, and it is a playoff type shot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like those shots are so valuable if you can just kind of generate offense out of a possession that's not gone nowhere, but not got you all the way to the rim or not got you an open three. And Jaylen's kind of the master of that stuff now. And him attacking these guys in semi-transition, dude, it's just so good. Evan Mobley's just bouncing off him. Like he's launching into the stands and Jaylen just laying it up. It's absolutely insane.
He is such a freak physically, dude. Yeah, this matchup is kind of perfect for him. Early in the series, but I mean, like he's averaging 26 a game on like 65% true shooting in this series so far. Like even in game 2, he was 7 for 17, which isn't great. But he ends up going 0 for 2 from the free throw line yesterday, which is disappointing after going for like 10 in a row. I'm concerned because the way that he fixed his free throw shooting was Tyler Hero's chin pubes headbutting his elbow, and then Darius Garland headbutted him with a different facial hair, and that's like screwed up his free throw.
Did we cancel it out? Oh no, I didn't even consider that, Jay.
Yeah,
shit.
I'm concerned that we're going back the other way, but man, just so impressive with like I saw the video yesterday. He's like in Cleveland, everybody's like screaming at him, doing lane violations. He's like leaning completely into it. He's like, yeah, dude, I fucking suck at free throws right now. I'm gonna force of will this thing into getting better at it, and so far. Look,
82% from the line this series.
We'll keep a track on it.
Pretty good. We got to talk about Jrue, right?
Yeah. We'll hit on Jrue. Obviously, his best game of the fucking playoffs. I mean, 18-8-5. Yeah, 18-8-5, 1 turnover, 7 and 10 from the floor. Incredible in the first half. He hit that big nuts 3 to kind of push the lead out to 23 in the second half. Defense was excellent. So he's got, in this series, a 10-1 assist to turnover ratio. For the playoffs, which is
that's fucking crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's absurd. And then a 4-1 assist to turnover ratio in the playoffs as a whole. So obviously, the true shooting is a disaster as a whole. Hopefully, this is the turnaround game. Like he was huge in the first half of this game yesterday, and you're hoping that's the turnaround. The thing that I've been most impressed with so far has been the rebounding. He has 8 rebounds yesterday, and that's part of why this Celtics defense has been so good. He's made a bunch of offensive rebounds where he's just crashed into dudes. He had one yesterday where he crashed in, led to a Hauser 3. Like, if the Celtics are going to make plays like that on top of having the talent advantage, you're not going to be able to beat them. And so I love that he's coming in and doing Marcus Smart stuff. And the defense, we know about that. It was lacking in game 2. It wasn't just him, but he brought it back in game 2, winning plays. And then if he's going to fucking make shots and knock down those corner threes, the trigger's a little slow. I thought he passed up a few corner threes that he's just got to fire away. But I mean, pretty much a flawless game from Jrue and like very encouraging, obviously.
Yeah, and he's plus 13 points. We're 13.6 points per 100 better with him on the court in the playoffs so far per cleaning the glass, which is just a massive impact considering how shit he's been from the floor all series. And he just doesn't get fouled, which doesn't make sense to me because he's physical around the rim and stuff like that. It's not like he shies away from contact, but that dude just does not draw fouls like ever.
Yeah.
I wonder how many free throws he's taken in the playoffs. It's got to be under 10.
Easily.
So, yeah. But I do really like that it felt like he knew Cleveland was going to try to like jump him passing the ball when he got into the lane. And he just adjusted to that and went straight downhill. There was a play in the first quarter where he was like up top, I think kind of in semi-transition, and he just kind of like hesitated, and the Cleveland defenders just split, expecting him to kick it, and he just walked to the rim. And if he can remain that locked in and that aggressive, I think that's what we need from him is like, don't let the misses affect how aggressive you are on the offensive end. And like, to your point, like, dude, let it go, man. You shot 60% on the corners. Like, this is Joe Mazzulla keeps saying it. It's no different than the regular season, which is bullshit. That's a classic Mazzulla-ism. It's just like fake news shit from Joe, but that's what he does. But like, the hoop is the same distance away in the playoffs as it is in the regular season. So just fire away, Jrue. But man, he was absolutely awesome. And I thought he did a great job on Mitchell.
Yep.
They're doing everything they can to get Jrue off Donovan Mitchell. And sometimes it works, but he's just been like, there was one time Hauser was isolated on Mitchell and Jrue came up to try to scram it and Hauser didn't read it, ended up in a Strus 3, but it was just such a good read from Jrue to like, get the fuck out of there, Hauser. I'm coming up. I'm going to guard him. And it's kind of a mistake by Hauser not to read it quick and get out of the way. But I think that just shows how locked in Jrue is defensively. And that's really what we need from him. I think we can probably win the title with him at like 50% true shooting. Yes. Although I think before last night he was at 47, which is god awful. But he's man, like the on-offs, like they just tell you how impactful he's been.
Yeah, well, that's always been the thing with Jrue. It's like, we can survive Jrue having that true shooting in this role because he's not shooting a ton of shots. The other part of the theory was hopefully it's not going to happen because
he'll be efficient on the smaller.
Because he just had literally the most efficient season of his career. You'd think, okay, even if he drops, then the floor in the playoffs will be higher. Yeah, so hopefully this is just mirroring the regular season where he kind of finds it later.
That's true.
Yeah, we'll see. Looking forward to the next game. I don't know if Allen's going to play. We talked about the Donovan Mitchell injury. If Allen does return, because defense has kind of been like the story of the playoffs so far, I think, for the Celtics, and reminding everybody every year in the playoffs that like playoff basketball is very different. This offensive explosion is nice, but like 106-93. Like this is the playoffs. It's crazy like how much stuff changes in the regular season. You get straight back to the playoffs and like defense, rock fights. That's the life in the playoffs. So do you think the Cavs could be easier to actually defend with Allen? Because you have those two bigs, another person to help off. You start packing the paint, another person to help off to give help to Mitchell. I'll pass it to you, sir.
Yeah, I said it in the playback that I had a hot take at halftime and was too drunk to remember what it was. But it was this exact take that I actually think we're in better shape if Allen comes back than because then they get to play Mobley without Allen, and that's when they're great. Or if they play Allen without Mobley, that's when they're great. But when they play them together, they were massively negative in the regular season. They're negative in the playoffs. Their offense has been terrible in the playoffs. Part of that's playing Orlando, who's got a great long, lengthy defense. But it gets even worse when those two play together. And in the regular season, they were about like 4.5 points per 100 worse when those guys played together as opposed to Allen without Mobley. So I think there's a pretty good argument that you could make that will make it more difficult to score if we are not making threes, but you can generate open threes much easier with Allen and Mobley out there. And like you can basically help off both those guys. Yeah. Like they can't put both of them in the dunker spot. Like Luke Cornett becomes playable if Jared Allen comes back and him and Mobley are out there again, together. So I get Allen's I think a better player than Mobley right now. Yeah. But they just make zero sense together, which is like this whole Cleveland team kind of makes zero. Like Mitchell and Garland don't really make sense together either. So I think you can make that argument for sure. But the flip side is like Allen's a really good player, and him coming back also could just really help them.
Yeah, I think it's technically better for them to get him back because they can go one over another. Like they can play both as opposed to having to Dean Wade at the 5 here. And yes, T, we're gonna wrap up here in like 10 minutes, and we're gonna catch the Denver Minnesota game. But yeah, I do think that maybe they're better technically because they don't have to go to those Dean Wade or Tristan Thompson lineups. But the thing is, like, you're adding let's call Jared Allen a top 35, top 40 player.
Sure.
But it's not dropping a top 40 player onto the team, and you're not getting that level of boost because of the fit. Whereas, like, you drop KP, let's just, for argument's sake, call him a top 40 player as well, even though he, was probably closer to top 25 impact this year. You're actually getting the full impact of a top 25 player on the Celtics team. So while I think maybe it's a slight boost for Cleveland, it's not quite the same as if you're bringing in someone of that similar caliber due to the fit. I'm going to run one more ad here, then we're going to talk about Knicks Pacers. If I can find it. Where are you? The NBA playoffs have been awesome so far, so it's hard to not think about trying to get to a couple of games. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to tip-off, which makes it great for last-minute decisions to maybe fly to Boston for the NBA Finals. My dad is literally on the way to Boston from Sydney right now for Game 1 of the second round, and he used Game Time to get his tickets. Game Time has awesome features like seat views. You get a sweet panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. You get a lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Knicks, Pacers. Interesting. Pacers.
The Knicks are lucky it's 2-2.
Yeah,
They
dude.
are lucky it's 2-2.
It could easily be 3-1. Yep. They fucking got molly-whopped by the Pacers today. And I was like, maybe they could just play all these guys a million minutes and it's never going to catch up to them. It looks like it's caught up to them. I mean, part of this, obviously, OG Anunoby is out. Like, they're just a completely different team without him. But, like, did he get injured because he was playing 40-plus minutes as a guy that's, like, had an injury history and been someone that hasn't been able to hold up consistently? Probably something to do with it. The Knicks look dead today.
Dude, it's crazy to me. And, like, the last team you want to play when you're feeling dead legs is the Pacers because they just push. It's like, oh, good, Halliburton's out. No, not TJ McConnell. Yeah, and then he just pushes it even harder. So, look, like, this has happened with every single team Tibbs has coached. Straight up. He basically, like, Derrick Rose, Minnesota. I'm sure there were guys on that Minnesota team. Like, didn't Butler break down when he was on that Minnesota team? And now the Knicks, they're falling apart. Dude, like, you just cannot play guys 40-plus minutes for an entire championship run. It just doesn't happen. It can't happen. It's not the 90s. Zone defense was outlawed in the 90s. Like, teams didn't play 4 to 5 shooters in the 90s. You didn't have to sprint out on every single player in the 90s to, like, guard them from the 3-point line. You could just kind of stand there and be like, oh, they're going to go into a move. No, they're probably going to pass it to Jordan, right? Like, the NBA is so much more difficult to play in from, like, an endurance level now. And these guys are just, like, more athletic. They're bigger. And you're just going to wear down. Like, we saw it with the Celtics, who are a young team. You think the young guys can handle the effort and endurance level of a playoff run? Tatum wore down in the finals, and he's like a friggin' Iron Man, dude. And I if I was a Knicks fan, I would be terrified because the refs bailed them out in that game 100%. So I think the Pacers basically have beat them 3 times, in my opinion. And the most recent evidence is that the Pacers beat the shit out of you. So I'd be worried. I'd be very worried. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of enjoying it a little bit, Jake.
Yeah, dude, we want Boston. Well, it's not looking good right now for the Knicks. And Halliburton, man, like, he has that game 1 where he's 2 for 6. And that's the game they got screwed in, which they almost stole with him playing like that. He looks like a different guy through games 2, 3, 4 here. He ends up today, I mean, probably 8 for 15 in 27 minutes, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 0 turnovers. He looks kind of scary right now. He looks like the guy a little bit from the in-season tournament period of the season where he was just like 10 plus threes, deep pull-ups. getting these guys moving. I still think it goes 7 though. I think the Knicks can get short. They can get one of these next two to get it back to 7. That's what we're going to be hoping for. Have you but coming into this series, I was hoping the Pacers would win because I prefer to play the Pacers than the Knicks. I haven't seen any updates on OG Anunoby because that probably swings this question for me. Besides him just being announced out every day, if the Knicks have OG Anunoby, I'm probably leaning Pacers. If the Knicks don't have OG Anunoby, give me the Knicks. But at the same time, I'm not sure how the Knicks win this series if OG's out for the remainder.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he's really important to them. I mean, he offensive, like they've asked him to kind of create a little bit in isolation, which he's not good at. But when
the defense is toast without him, it's just not good enough at all. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They're so small without him too, especially with Randall being hurt and Mitchell Robinson being hurt too. So they've definitely. Surprise, surprise, a Tibbs team has a bunch of important players hurt. Wow, that's never happened before. But they're like it's DiVincenzo and Brunson on, as your 1-2. Like that's really small. And Hartenstein's like a good player, but he's also kind of slow-footed out on the perimeter. So, man, I think if OG's out for the rest of the series, I'm going Pacers in 7 because I think you're right. I think the Knicks, this is going 7 straight up, no matter what, whether he's back or not. I think it's definitely going to go 7. I think I said Knicks in 7 at the start of the series. If OG's out, I think it's got to be Pacers in 7, though, for sure.
Yeah, I think if I had to pick one outcome, just give me 7 of whatever. That's the best possible outcome. This question in the chat's right up your alley. Aaron Nesmith was the only bad trade Brad Stevens has made so far. He's been fantastic. Me and Eric Weiss were just, drooling over the progression of Aaron Nesmith. It's great to see, man. Like, we were both Aaron Nesmith guys. You were the Aaron Nesmith guy.
Yes.
And he wasn't bad with the Celtics. I'm just not sure he was going to be able to find this level with the Celtics. He got more of a chance than people remember. Like, he got enough minutes, but he was never going to be given the full level of freedom that he was given with Indiana. And that would be a fun subplot of the next round just because he's a psychopath and hates us so much. And dude, the Pacers and Celtics have played a ton of fun games in the last couple of years here. But not to get too ahead of ourselves, we've got to win 2 more games against Cleveland. But yeah, any other thoughts on Pacers Knicks?
Real quick on Nesmith, like he needed to be empowered to make mistakes, and Udoka did not let him at all.
Yeah.
So he just lost all of his confidence with the Celtics, and then you see him go to Indy. They were going to be bad. They let him just play big minutes, make mistakes. Like when he got to play at that end of the 22 season, or the 21 season rather.
Yes.
He was really good in the second half of that season because he knew he was going to play, and he was confident. And I just feel like he's kind of a fragile confidence guy in a lot of ways. And Indy's like empowered him to make mistakes, and now he's confident and he's balling, dude. He's like a good defensive player, and he's making threes, and he's like electric going to the rim. Like he can fucking power his way to the rim, and he's super athletic. I love that dude. I hope he drops 40 on the Knicks in game 6. And then if we play the Pacers, I hope he shoots like 2% from the field.
From a Schadenfreude perspective, the Knicks losing is easily the best outcome.
The best.
I mean, Neesmith's a psycho. He tried to, with a full run-up, Hartenstein was parked at the rim. He just tried to yam it right on Hartenstein and, he just had no chance. But I respect it, man. He is electric. And I do like it from that perspective. Not that I hate that I have to worry about it a tiny bit, but the Celtics, being motivated and engaged. Aaron Nesmith is kind of going to bring that out of them because of the way that he plays. He's going to be fucking barking at Tatum. He's going to be barking at everybody. Yeah, he's going to piss them off. And yeah, Tatum and Jaylen are going to go right back at him. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup regardless. Again, don't want to get too ahead of myself. We're up 2-1. We're not up 3-1 here. But yeah, Celtics tomorrow. We'll be back on playback.tv/Celtics blog to watch the game. And then we'll be doing instant reactions after the game. We'll be doing a late night tomorrow. Just go win the game. Go play defense. Jayson Tatum, 42 minutes. Maybe tomorrow's the night. Maybe it's going to be the 12 for a 20 game, or it's the 14 for a 28 game where he goes actually 50% from the field, 4 for 8 from 3. I don't really care. I don't care how they win. I don't care what his shooting percentage is. Just go out there and win the game.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. Celtics in 5.
Celtics in 5. Let's get it done. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you as always. Like, subscribe, 5 stars, all the good stuff. Until next time, go Celtics.
I love the Celtics!